afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Energy, Climate Change, and Environmental Justice Committee. I'm going to go ahead and take public comment first, and then I'll have our clerk go ahead and read off the next items. So why don't we go ahead and take up 4 public comment cards. Rabia Sen, are you here? Hope I didn't butcher your name. Dr. Tom Williams, Reverend Oliver Bowie, and Clark Forrest, are you here? Clark Forrest, are you here?
Yes, he's here.
Sounds like Mr. Spinner's puppet. Hugo Garcia. You all of you have 3 minutes each, 2 minutes to cover the items you've submitted for public comment, and then do 1 minute for general public comment. And the clock, as soon as you see the last minute, that's when you should go into your general public comment. Okay, go ahead. 3 minutes on the clock.
Okay.
Hold on for just a second. What's wrong with the clock?
It's not showing on this side.
Do you see 3 on your side? No.
3 now.
It keeps going back and forth.
1 and 3. 1 and
So I
3.
think it's 3.
I'll take
Keeps
4.
going back and forth.
Take 4.
So to be clear, I need to do my general comment at the very end?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So you have 3 minutes total, 2 of which you can use for all the items that you submitted to speak on, and then your last minute is your general public comment.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So you want to just keep the timer on, sir? Do you have a manual clock or something?
This time it will.
Just hit 3 minutes, and then we'll alert you. We'll alert you at 2 minutes, and then when you're done. Tell me when you're ready.
oh, yes,
Okay,
I'm ready.
go ahead.
My name is Rabia Sen with Esperanza Community Housing. Regarding item 6, we do not oppose a comprehensive inspections program for oil drilling sites, but it's critical that this committee and officials throughout city government understand this one thing, that Alanco has had many inspections, and that even with proper inspections, and even if the company fully complies with conditions imposed on them and obeys the law fully, we fully expect that the neighboring residents will still get sick if operations begin again in 1 or 2 or 6 months. That's because oil extraction activity is inherently dangerous, and it's an inherently dangerous operation. We cannot lose sight of the fact that human health is at risk wherever there is oil extraction. In LA, this means that oil extraction is happening mere feet from homes and schools. Given this, it is unconscionable that the industry still wants to make profits of impacting human health of some of our most vulnerable residents, including children and our elders. Regarding item 7, we are pleased that Council Member Cedillo's office has gotten involved on this issue. Insofar as the Council member's motion on terminating oil districts is aimed at finding a way to keep Alanco permanently closed, we support it and urge this committee to move forward the Petroleum Administrator's recommendation. But, as the Petroleum Administrator's thorough report on this issue seems to indicate, terminating the specific oil district where Alanco is located is a long shot at best. While we are eager to explore avenues to keep Alanco permanently closed, Esperanza Community Housing and our People Not Pozos campaign co-founded and is an active member of the Stand LA Coalition because we know that the citywide solution is necessary, and that citywide solution ought to be a 2,500-foot human health and safety buffer. I'll let my colleague share. I'll let my colleagues share more about that, and I'll simply say that we're eager to work with all of you on making the safety buffer policy a reality as soon as possible. Also, in general, we are pleased to see that this committee is taking up multiple agenda items relating to oil drilling. Our organization and the community we work with in the University Park neighborhood were among the first to raise the issue of health and safety at oil extraction sites when both residents as well as our own staff were, for all intents and purposes, poisoned by the Alanco drill site 7 years ago. Through the organized efforts of community members, with support from then Senator Boxer and many others, and later from the city itself, Alanco voluntarily chose to close operations 4 years ago. That struggle, though, it's not over. And after complying with a series of conditions imposed by the city and state, we have heard, and the community has heard, that Alanco could resume operations quite possibly within the next couple of months. Again, we know that oil extraction is fundamentally incompatible with human health. We ask you, in this committee and as the city, to take action to protect our community members.
Thank you very much. Mr. Williams, again, you're going to have 3 minutes total, 2 minutes to cover all the items you've filled out cards for, and then your last minute will be for general public comment.
And last minute.
Your last 1 minute will be general public comment, okay? Go ahead.
Yep.
Start.
Okay, item number 6. Basically, where are the fees going to come from? The county assessor has all of the assessment rolls for the subsurface properties, and I say the assessment should be against the actual property owner and perhaps the operators of any oil well, oil field in the city of Los Angeles. So money. Ownership and liability. Ownership and liability must be associated not only for the oil, but forever, because whoever owns the property subsurface is responsible for that well, much like an underground storage tank. So there's basics. Here's one thing. Dogger records are trash. The city must verify what's actually in that well, because the Alicio Canyon blowout was due to the fact that, I say, fraudulent submittals had been done to the state, and the state assumed that there were things okay. There's a basic problem there. The records that Dogger has are not verified by any independent source other than the contractors and the operators. Owner liability. Item number 7, buried wells. That's the big one. I have a buried well not more than a half a mile from my house, but nobody that that occupies the property knows of the buried well. So we have a basic problem there. You see, Citizens Coalition for a Safe Community will acquire historic aerial photographs of the city of LA for free and provide to the administrator any information that we can glean on the old wells. 1 minute. Okay. What's my background? I was drilling wells in 1958. One summer, hell. And we went on, and I got my PhD in geology and zoology with an emphasis upon micropaleontology for oil wells. I am a member of the American Association of Petroleum Geologists and Society of Petroleum Engineers. I spent 3 days at the Ross Dress for Less store site in 1985 when a well blew out and resulted in 22 people going to the hospital. I have some vested interests. I know Murphy site, I know the Good Shepherd, Alenco site, and they have been operated without consideration of the health and safety of the surrounding people. I guess that's all.
Okay, that's it. And you had 2 seconds left.
Oh, I got 2 seconds.
I appreciate that. We're done, Mr. Williams. Thank you very much. We've now been joined by Mr. Koretz. Let the record reflect that. Reverend, I believe our clock is not working?
It should be.
It's not working, so you will see the timer, sir, right in front of you. 3 minutes?
Oh, no problem.
All right, go ahead.
Yes, good afternoon, council members. I'm Reverend Oliver EBowie, and I'm the Minister of Community Engagement at Holman United Methodist Church in the historic West Adams District, where we are approximately a half a mile away from the Murphy drill site. I'm going to like for all of my comments to apply to 6, 7, and 8, and I just expedite time, just share with you where I'm coming from. First of all, we are proud co-founders and founders of Stand Together Against Neighborhood Drilling Coalition, and also as a faith leader, we feel, number one, that we stand together against environmental justice, and we stand for environmental holiness. Also, we'd like to appeal to you as this committee, which I see you have the word justice in the committee's name, and I hope that we look to fight for justice for all people and not just for some people or just for big oil. So I'm really looking to you as all of you have made a commitment and taken an oath to serve the community as a whole and Los Angeles as a whole to the best of your ability. Also, the Murphy Oil drill site is actually owned by the Roman Catholic Archdiocese, and I hope that also, as we have appealed to them, that you will also reach out and appeal to them the importance of them standing together with Pope Francis, who is one of the main leaders when it comes to environmental justice and standing to protect the people and not just in it for the profits. I think too often, and especially in brown and black communities, we are usually the victims where many of these sites are found, and we usually are the ones that are impacted the most, and our health and our safety is at risk. Also, with what has taken place out at Porter Ranch, I hope that we would be proactive to protect our community and not wait for a disaster to happen before we actually take the proper action. And I'd like to just thank you as we continue to work together to promote environmental justice and work together to make Los Angeles a better city, a safe city, and a healthy city. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Reverend. Let me call 3 more speakers before Mr. Garcia continues. Eric Roman, Rodney Moore. Anybody here with that name? Rodney Moore. Armando Herman, Wayne Spindler. So far, those are the only cards I have. This will be the last speakers. Anyone else wishing to speak needs to go to the back and fill out the tablet so I can have you up here as a speaker. Yes, sir?
There's another gentleman that would like to speak.
Where is he?
His name is Leo Ramirez.
Leo Ramirez, are you here?
Yeah.
¿Usted quiere hablar? Sí, can someone help him? Aquí le van a enseñar cómo poner su nombre atrás para tenerlo aquí en la tableta, ¿ok? Él le va a ayudar, señor Padilla. Mr. Spinner, sit down. You've been called to speak, so take a seat. If not, you can exit the room.
Just to say, Councilmember, I think we actually submitted a card for Mr. Ramirez for whatever that.
He's not on here, so he might not have registered. But no problem, we will have him.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Garcia, you can go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember, for allowing one of the residents to speak. And good afternoon, all council members. My name is Hugo Garcia. I'm the coordinator for the People Not Pozos or Oil Wells campaign at Esperanza Community Housing. I work directly with the residents of Esperanza's own building, as well as other residents, schools, and churches around the Alenco drill site. Working class immigrant residents, many with jobs and with kids in school, couldn't be here today to share their stories themselves. But many remember well the health impacts, severe nosebleeds and headaches, respiratory problems, even cancer that have been experienced when Alenco was operating. They live with real fear of the consequences should the site reopen. Councilmember Cedillo, we need you to work with us to explore all available options to keep the site permanently closed, to sit down, starting with meeting directly with you to explore them. The Petroleum Administrator's report makes clear one way to keep the site permanently closed, and that is for the owner of the property, the Los Angeles Roman Catholic Archdiocese, to invoke a specific clause in its lease with Alenco to terminate the lease while the facility is not in operation. Community members from across the city have made multiple appeals to the Archdiocese, Archbishop Gomez, and even Pope Francis, but so far no response. We need you, Councilmember Cedillo, to amplify your constituents' voices by making your own public statement that the Archbishop can protect the health of residents by canceling the lease with Alenco. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. You still had another minute left.
No.
Kidding.
Okay.
Just wanted to point that out. So you want to use your one last minute for general public comment? Want to be fair.
Just generally that we're really counting on this committee to support the health and welfare of the community. And although I directed that to Councilmember Cedillo, we're asking the whole committee because this is so important, not only in the Elanco site, but throughout the city of Los Angeles, that there should not be these type of facilities operating and impacting the health and welfare of any resident throughout the city of LA. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garcia. So why don't we go ahead, Mr. Eric Roman? You have 3 minutes.
Great. Good afternoon, council members. Eric Roman. I'm the coordinator of the Stand LA Coalition, Standing Together Against Neighborhood Drilling. We are encouraged to see this committee and the council taking up the issue of oil and gas, and specifically as it relates to the health and safety of the residents of our city. One item that's not on the agenda today, just to note, is a report from that we're waiting on from the Petroleum Administrator relating to what would be a citywide policy to effectively zone out oil drilling operations in residential neighborhoods through a human health and safety buffer ordinance. A couple of you on this, several of you on this committee were co-sponsors of the original motion. That was now over a year ago. So we appreciate your support on that, and we want to continue to work with you to make that happen and as expeditiously as possible. And we've communicated our concerns about the delay to the Petroleum Administrator directly. With regard to the motion in front of us today relating to inspections, Stand LA and all our member organizations were all in favor of inspecting oil sites and air monitoring of oil sites to make sure that while they're still operating, we can minimize the potential health impacts on surrounding communities. However, as one of my colleagues previously mentioned, at the end of the day, it's no substitute for a policy that shuts down these facilities altogether. Because again, as my colleague mentioned, our experience has been that even when these facilities are operating within the bounds of the law as it currently exists, and even when they're well inspected, they're inherently dangerous operations. And we think that, you know, we're encouraged, well, I should say, we're strongly concerned about specifically the one site that has been closed in part as a result of community pressure opening up again, as was previously mentioned, the Allenco site, and concerned about the impacts on the community even if the company complies with all the conditions that have been imposed upon it. So all that is to say, we're eager to work with you all to advance the motions that are in front of you today, but also for a long-term citywide solution that can address all drill sites and not require that individual communities like the one around the Allenco site wage Herculean struggles to address specific sites. Thank you.
Thank you. Armando Herman, followed by Wayne Spiller. Hold on for just a second. I know we had more cards. Do you have those ready?
Yes.
They're not
Yeah.
popping up on the iPad.
So, because it's defective. Yeah. Piece of shit. Don't worry.
Okay.
It doesn't.
So we have room for 2 more speakers. Gus Torres,
Gus.
do you want to come up? Rob Pulido?
Sí.
Is Rob Pulido here?
Sí. Puede hablar, yes.
Peter. Peter's here.
Yes.
He doesn't talk though.
Senor.
Are you Gus?
No, Rob.
You're Rob. Where's Gus?
Yeah. Gus is.
All right. So let me finish these 2 speakers, and then Mr. Torres can go first. Go ahead, Armando Herman.
So as we all know, the county assessor's assessment of the so-called property and its owners, as we know, it's part of the church. The church has its hands on not just oil, but the Pope knows that terminating drilling with children would stop all the sexual misconduct of the Archdiocese. So what is the liability of our neighborhoods for our safety when it comes to citywide oil or citywide fracking? Well, there is no gas facilities in compliance still, as we all heard about the Aliso Canyon causing children to have bloody nose and headaches. Whew. Yeah, the safety of our neighborhoods is in the perils of this so-called committee. And when you look at how the oversight of petroleum and natural gas operations is orchestrated, you find out that these related matters is not the liability of the city of Los Angeles, because they don't give a rat's ass about you folks. They would rather see petroleum as natural gas pumped into Wesson's facilities of compliance, because I think Mr. Wesson needs more petroleum so that he could have a slippery ride to jail when they find out that he's involved.
Please stick to the items that you signed up for.
Well, ma'am, it says Wesson on item 6.
Right.
I'm on the item. 6, 7, and 8 all relate to the oil. Am I not right? And if we were on item like 9, I could say in response to Ms. Martinez that it would be a method of competitive seal to use a Tommy Trojan. Now my general public comment. Now, since Mommy is in the business of delegating what my opinion is, I'm not going to allow it. I'm going to terminate Mommy from drilling into my mind and talking about my points of view and perspective of my public comment. After all, I'm in compliance with the Brown Act, not like these motherfuckers who are drilling in our neighborhoods like the Aliso Canyon and the stupid fuck Mitchell Englander, like tomorrow 8:30 for our public safety, is not concerned. So if you want to join me and the children and shout out to Mommy, Mommy, look, it's not the problem of the church, it's the problem of the Pope. He continues to allow sexual misconduct in the archdiocese of the church in which you, Mommy, have welcomed, as you've done in the past with LAUSD, letting pedophiles fuck our children.
Springer, go ahead.
Yes. So, William Goat for the record. Fucking shit. Well, you look at number 1, Kern County. Fuck these people, Kern County. That's right. Now you have the chance to charge these bastards whatever you think is proper. All the times that you went against our friends up on the 5 freeway, now they have a chance for retaliation. So yes to number 1, but make it triple what the suggested rate was. And then we have the number 8, Mommy! That's right. That's a Martinez Petroleum Jelly subject matter jurisdiction, yes. And of course she needs that for all of her prostitutes in the 6th district. So yes on number 6. And then we get to number 7. It's a Gil Cedillo oil well. I didn't know Gil Cedillo was an oil man. I know he has a lot of interests. So I say, drill, baby, drill. Get that oil out of there, yes. Yes. Even if it spills in the drinking water, we need gas. Because gas is what we put on our fucking cars and trucks. Gas is what we do to sell cars. Gas is business. And in the 1st district, we say, Trump, 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 drill, drill, drill. And we're going to keep drilling for more oil. And we found a lot of it in the 1st district. So all of you little girls that go, Mommy, Mommy, don't drill. Where do you think your gas comes from? It comes from the 1st district. And Mr. Cedillo has given us a lot of fuel. Thank you, and continue to drill more for gas. And then we get to all of the other items, but now we get into general comment. And first of all, that fat fucking slob, Paul Koretz, shows up late like a fat pig. And then we have the goat, Paul the goat, Krikorian shows up late. Now, Mr. Cedillo showed up late, but that's because he has a disability and he tries as hard as he can to get here. But Mommy Nuring was here first. She was on time. So we want the other 2 and to get the fuck off of this panel. We don't want you dealing with energy, gas, climate, and anything. They're two worthless assholes. Because, for example, Paul the Goat Krikorian has a big fat wife who's a cunt and a retard son H-rag. And he goes home to his fat bitch. He goes home to his retard.
To do with this committee. Thank you very much. This is your last warning, Mr. Spinner. I'm going to have you removed. You're done. Okay, I called Mr. Gus Torres and Mr. Pulido. Let me call two more speakers. Leo Ramirez, are you here? Pásale enfrente, pero si quiere hablar. You know what, can you have Mr. Spinner removed? He continues to disrupt our meeting. And while he's at it, Mr. Herman, you can walk out with him as well. Have them both removed. You're done, Mr. Herman. You're done too. Thank you very much. The next speaker is Alexandra Nagy. Can you just make that note for the record that they continue to disrupt our meeting by speaking out loud, and the continued goat noses and their puppet noises and everything else that is associated to these two individuals. Goodbye. Mr. Torres? The following speakers that I'm going to call have only filled out one public comment card, so you're going to get 1 minute, okay? So, Mr. Torres, go ahead. You have 1 minute. Something's wrong with the clock again. Do you want to fix this? Now we have 98.
98. Make for 11.
Got one now.
Yeah, there you go. We have 1 minute for the one public comment card you filled out for. Okay. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Gus Torres, and I'm here on behalf of 1,000 working men and women in Los Angeles.
I'm sorry, can you get a little closer to the mic so we can hear you? There you go.
My name is Gus Torres. I'm here on behalf of 1,000 working men and women in Los Angeles. Any new regulations or changes to the codes will lead to the shutdown of some oil and gas production in the city of Los Angeles, which would devastate hundreds of families that will be forced out of work. Governor Brown said, "A world without oil is not an option. Let's keep the jobs local, the workers and residents safe, and the environment closely monitored rather than send the industry off to third world countries." Thank you for your time, and God bless.
Thank you. Mr. Pulido, you're next.
Good afternoon. My name is Rob Pulido. I represent the ARMS organization. U.S. Congressman Ron Lewis was once quoted as saying, "By encouraging conservation, increasing investments in clean, renewable sources of energy, and promoting increased domestic production of oil and gas, we can build a more secure future for our country." There is no identifiable reason why California, led by the City of Los Angeles and its lawmaking bodies, such as this committee, can both protect domestic oil and gas production as well as explore the opportunities represented by renewable energy sources. Approving a 2,500-foot setback is approving a shutdown on the oil and gas industry. Doing that at this point in our nascent journey to establish renewables as our primary source of energy production will be like trying to build a house in a hurricane. Southern California hosts some of the largest oil and gas deposits in the world. There's a tremendous need in our domestic economy for this particular product. And to arbitrarily shut down production by mandating a 2,500-foot setback will cause us to have to import our oil and gas for many years yet to come. Please consider the power you've been given to do the right thing and vote no on the setback. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Ramirez, followed by Ms. Nagy. You're done, sir. Thank you. I'm going to call Miguel Vega. Miguel Vega, you want to translate for him? Yeah. Okay, ¿quiere comenzar?
Sí. Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
Yo sé que necesitamos el gas y el petróleo y el aceite.
He says he knows that we need oil and gas.
Y yo vivo ahí cerquita de donde está el pozo.
He lives right in the community where the Alenco oil drilling site.
Ahora no se siente nada porque está cerrado, pero cuando está trabajando se siente el ruido, el dolor de cabeza, el dolor de garganta y
He says he knows that it's closed up right now, there's a shutdown, but that when it's in operation, there's a lot of health effects, including the breathing issues, bleeding noses, and the throat problems.
Y a ver si lo cierran para que estemos mejor, la comunidad se sienta mejor.
He would like it closed down permanently so that the community would be better off health-wise.
¿Quiere decir algo más? Porque le están traduciendo, so le puedo dar más minutos.
Está bien.
¿No es así? ¿Está bien? Okay.
Gracias.
I asked him if he
Thank
wanted
you.
additional time only because you have a translator, but he does not want to. He said it all. Thank you very much for translating. Gracias. Alexandra Nagy, followed by Miguel Vega. Chris Cheeks, are you here? Followed by Zach Strasters. Is Zach here? Are you Zach? Go ahead, Alexandra.
Good afternoon. My name is Alexandra Nagy, Senior Organizer with Food and Water Watch. I'm here to speak to item 6, the inspection program. This is a no-brainer and long overdue, so I look forward to the recommendation by this committee to include all oil and gas operations within the city for the inspection program. I also wanted to comment to the letter SoCalGas submitted a couple days ago saying that they are exempt from inspection, which I find ridiculous. This really just shows their true colors and is not a surprise for me. Basically, they want to prevent the city of Los Angeles from keeping their residents safe. And again, no oil and gas facility should be exempt. Just a little background on SoCalGas's history. We don't need to get into it, but it seems like we do for some people in the room. Aliso Canyon, the largest gas disaster in U.S. history. 10 of these wells are in city property. Playa del Rey, oil and gas production wells. The Mercaptan spill that happened in Koretz and Bonan's, Koretz district, but affected Bonan's community as well. These are all very important reasons. An inspection program is a good first step, but doesn't go far enough to keep communities safe, which is why we look forward to supporting a 2,500-foot setback. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vega?
Good afternoon. My name is Miguel Vega. I am with the ARMS organization. Most people don't recognize that LA was developed on an oil field. As leaders in the industry, the local producers here offer good, safe jobs and have the strictest safety standards in the nation. Allowing the production to continue in LA is essential for the local economy, and we would urge you to look at the economic impacts that would result from making changes to the codes. Thank you, and God bless you guys.
Thank you. Next, thank you. I'm going to call 2 more speakers, though. We have 2 more seats. Godfrey Rashad? Godfrey? Asia Flowers? Mr. Cheeks, you want to go?
Yeah. Good afternoon. My name is Chris Cheek. I'm a member of Plumbers Local 78 here in Los Angeles, and I'm also a resident. I've worked in Los Angeles for more than 11 years, and I am very proud of our health and safety record and our contributions to LA. I'm here today to stand up for my job, my family, my coworkers, and many other Angelenos who depend on the oil and gas industry. As a Los Angeles resident, I want healthy communities too. The city should study all factors that affect community health so that the policies will actually make people healthier. Instead, activists demand that you target oil and gas wells and end local production, even before the studies you requested are done. This will directly impact thousands without improving anyone's health. Please think about these families before taking action that threatens local and gas oil production. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Zach Strasters. I'm with the ARMS organization, and first let me start off by saying it's a pleasure and an honor to be before this committee, and I appreciate your time. So one of the things that I want to discuss today a little bit is the lives that are directly impacted with regards to the economy when we look at these oil and gas jobs. I think we recognize that Allen Co. is not representative of this industry. They are certainly the exception and not the rule. I don't think anybody stands behind, pollution and things that are detrimental to the health of the community, but we do need to look at the fact that we haven't fully come to the point where renewables are our sole source of energy, and if no one else is going to take responsibility. California, an economy that's been built on this particular product, should be at the forefront of designing the next step. We can't abandon literally hundreds of thousands of jobs, and the decisions that we make in Los Angeles will have a ripple effect throughout California. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Let me call 2 more speakers. Yolita Dines, are you here? And Jay Bradford? Go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Godfrey Rashad. I'm here on behalf of Creed LA. One of the ironies of activists attacking our local oil and gas industry is that it's the Putins, the Ayatollahs, and the Maduros of the world who will actually benefit, because we still do need oil. And if we are to kill our industry here, kill the jobs here, we'll need to import that oil from countries with serious human rights issues and poor environmental oversight. And that really goes against the very ideals and values that we stand for. We believe that we can drill oil safely, protect people's health, and protect the jobs at the same time. And to be clear, we support responsible companies, those that protect health, those that protect the environment, and at the same time provide good, well-paying jobs. And moving forward, we hope that the decisions made will be based on studies based on California rather than out of the state.
Thank you so much, sir. I think it was Asia Flowers? Yeah, you want to go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Asia Flowers. I'm also here with Creed LA, and we share the same goals of keeping our community, the people working in this industry, and the environment safe. But I'm also here because it's important that the people working in this industry have a voice and they're able to continue working. This industry in California is highly regulated and enforced by stringent emission and environmental regulations. These are regulations that are specifically designed to protect the public health and safety by controlling air emissions and odors for people who are living and working near the production site. As we continue to build a cleaner LA, we must also consider the science, research, regulatory agencies that have produced reports and already passed legislation ensuring the safety. I encourage our leaders to remember that the families depend on this industry for their livelihood. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yolita Dines?
Good morning. I'm Yolita Dines with Creed LA as well. The oil and gas industry has consistently fought to support diversity and provide jobs to local Angelinos from different educational backgrounds. Today I'm here to voice my concerns for continued operations in the city of Los Angeles and protect jobs for our sisters and brothers. I share concerns with people in this room that we want our natural resources being produced safely and that the government is taking their regulatory responsibilities seriously. I also understand that natural resources are fundamental to our economy, our national security, and our way of life. Our city is unique in that industry has been around for more than a century, and over that time, a dense urban landscape has grown. Communities should expect excellence and safety from urban producers. I urge you to review the substantiated science from the state agencies on this before adopting changes that greatly impact the local economy and jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. Jay?
Hello, my name is Jay, and I'm here today on behalf of Creed LA. It is important we keep our community safe and keep our industry and employment opportunities strong. I encourage and respect the decision you are making today, but ask that you look into other industries as part of an urban study rather than target the oil and gas industry. I encourage you to look at other health-related impacts on residents like those exposed to flight paths, freeways, power lines. Don't narrow in on the industry that supports this economy that provides good wages. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, that concludes. Anyone else that forgot to, did you fill out a card?
I actually filled it out twice.
All right. Mileme Ackley Padilla, do you know what you're doing with that thing?
I
know. Kidding. Ackley's great. Why don't you go ahead and fill out your card? Come up front and then go fill it out after you speak. Who else? There was someone else that raised their hand next to you? No? Oh, she's doing it on your behalf. Okay. Anybody else that filled out a card to speak and I did not call your name? Okay, that's it. So why don't you go ahead and give me your name, and then when we're done, if I can just please ask you to redo it again so we can have your name on the record. So go ahead.
My name is Amanda Parsons. I work for Sentinel Peak Resources. We're an oil and gas producer with operations in the LA Basin. Thank you for hearing my comments today. We share our responsibility jointly, you to protect the public and us to supply the ever-increasing demand for oil and gas in Los Angeles and beyond responsibly. We are your constituents, and we both desire the safe and responsible production of oil and gas for the benefit of us all. Producers and the city together should encourage the spread of accurate information that helps the public paint a realistic picture of the oil and gas setting in their area, both to educate and to combat the perpetuation of misinformation that's run rampant in this district. On behalf of the industry and other area producers, we wish to work with you collaboratively in order to achieve this goal. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no other speakers, we're going to go ahead and close public comment, including general public comment, Mr. City Clerk. And we're going to go ahead and, members, just go ahead and approve items 1 through 5, items 9. I'm not done. I go ahead and move to approve items 1 through 5, 9, and 10 on consent. So moved by Mr. Cedillo. He's very anxious today. Okay, those are items are going to go ahead and get approved on consent. We're going to go ahead and take up the remaining items together. That's items 6, 7, and 8. If we can have our petroleum administrator please come to the table. I'm going to ask Mr. Prieto to go ahead and read each of the items into the record so that we all know and can follow as to what we're speaking about. Mr. Uruak, do you have anyone else with you, or you're the only one?
There are representatives from the planning department.
Why don't we have those folks join us? If you're exiting our committee, can you please do it as quietly as possible, please? Thank you very much.
As long we have the fire department.
We have the fire department, planning, anyone else? I just want everybody on the here in case
I think
members have any questions. No other members of your department? You're done. All right, very well. So why don't we go ahead and allow Mr. Prieto to read. Can you read, close the door? Thank you. Read each item into the record, items 6, 7, and 8, and then we're going to have Mr. Uruak go ahead and give us a presentation. Go ahead.
Certainly, Madam Chair. Ravi Albedo with the CLA's office. Item number 6 relates to Office of Petroleum and Natural Gas Administration and Safety Report in response to motion, Wesson Bonin, relative to establishing an annual citywide oil well and gas facilities compliance inspection program. Excuse me. Number 7, Office of Petroleum and Natural Gas Administration and Safety Report relative to terminating inactive oil drilling districts in Council District 1. And number 8, motion Wesson, Koretz, Bond, and Cedillo Martinez relative to centralization of oversight of petroleum and natural gas operations within city and related matters. That completes those items, Madam Chair.
Okay, so now those items are before us, Mr. Nook. So go ahead and, as you can hear public comment, you sat through all of it, so you know how some people are feeling very anxious about this issue and wanting to move forward. You also heard concerns on the other side in terms of the desire for clarification and our continued discussion on these topics. So why don't I go ahead and have you go through a presentation to speak about the different reports that we have before us. You can walk us through that, and then we will consider what's appropriate for action after your presentation, and we can hear from members as well. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chairwoman and City Council members. Uduak Joe Intuk, Petroleum Administrator, City of Los Angeles. I'm first going to speak to agenda item number 6, the annual inspection program. You should have copies of the report before you. This came out of a motion this past March from Council President Wesson and Councilmember Bodden asking for a plan to implement an annual compliance check of oil and gas facilities throughout the city. My office conducted an extensive study and evaluation of existing inspection programs, both inside and outside of the city, met with multiple departments to seek input, and also consulted some of the recommendations from the LA County Oil and Gas Strike Team, as along with the February LA County Health Department's health study report back. And so we have 4 recommendations. One is to request the creation of an ordinance creating the authority to have an inspection program overseen by the Board of Public Works and the Office of Patrol Administration that allow us to work with our internal city departments and external government agencies, and also to create a new permit process. The second recommendation is to identify funding to do a fee study as far as establishing the fees related for cost recovery for the service provided of the inspection, and then also requesting a report back from the Petroleum Administrator with a work plan and resources to implement. The fourth recommendation is also an authorization to make any changes as needed. And it's going through this as a first pass report, recommendation of what a potential program could look like. We do need additional time to review and input from members of the internal city family plus external agencies. But we did go through and look at the recommendations from the county strike team had items that should be reviewed as part of their work they've done the last 2 years at the county level as far as inspections of facilities and creating a checklist here in the city. The health department recommended a preventative testing and monitoring or annual compliance check as part of their health study. Also requested a comprehensive community safety plan and an updated emergency preparedness plan for each site. We went through and identified potential roles and structure, and also we included in this report a citywide inventory of oil and gas sites and wells by council district. As far as my recollection, this has not been done in modern times as far as what is existing as far as oil fields and oil wells per council district. So it includes an updated listing and inventory in this. And we did, as part of the budget process, we're allocated $50,000 towards the fee study, which we were in the process of beginning the task order to begin the evaluation. And at this time, I welcome any questions that council members may have.
Members, Mr. Corrales, go ahead.
Yeah, a couple comments. First of all, Southern California Gas arguing against this motion made me want to support it even more. To quote from their letter, Southern California gas pipelines and underground storage wells are comprehensively regulated and inspected by state and federal authorities with extensive experience and expertise in the operation and maintenance of natural gas facilities, and that local inspection and regulation, quote, could impair the safety and operation of SoCal gas facilities. And my question is, how could it get any worse? And we already had Aliso Canyon, which has been called the worst man-made greenhouse gas disaster in U.S. history. If we'd been inspecting it, we might have been able to avoid it. If the city had been regularly inspecting the Rancho Park site in my district, we might have avoided the odorant leak, which made many people sick, made thousands of people fear for their lives, and led to an odorant leak which people could smell as far as 4 miles away. Now, I think the CPUC and Dogger and other agencies have been falling down on the job. They don't have to live with the mistakes in LA, but we do. And if indeed there is any kind of preemption by state or federal agencies from us doing these kinds of inspections, we should work with our legislators at those levels to change that. Now, a couple questions. Does the city currently require any permits whatsoever at SoCal gas sites?
Yes, there's a number of permits issued by the city at SoCal gas sites really related to the fire code, building code, the Certified Unified Program Agency, CUPA, that are related to their facilities, yes.
And if we're giving out permits, is there any way we could give those permits out without having the ability to inspect those sites?
I'd have to defer to the agency on the inspections related to the permit issuing with fire, CUPA, building and safety. AQMD also issues permits for local equipment.
Okay, so I guess the question would then be directed to you. Could could we give these permits out and yet be prevented from doing any inspections?
Well, thank you, sir. Patrick Hayden, LAFD. I am the Industrial Commercial Section Commander, and good afternoon to you all. So obviously, if we were to provide an avenue for any industry to have the opportunity to have a permit, it should come with an inspection. In the case of fire, we inspect on an annual basis, and we will continue to inspect on an annual basis. What we're inspecting for at the fire level, however, is for the general fire life and safety issues. Many of these permits may go above and beyond what our scope of ability to really sort of regulate really, speaks to. So when you look at any facility within the city of Los Angeles, we do have a robust fire life safety inspection process, and it is annual. We also have a Coupa inspection that takes place on a triannual basis, and I can also let the gentleman right here, Royce Long, speak to that.
So Royce Long, I'm the Coupa Program Manager in the Fire Department. We're a state program. We regulate environmental programs on behalf of the state, specifically the Office of Emergency Services and the State Fire Marshal's Office. And the programs that we inspect are the Hazardous Materials Inventory and Business Emergency Planning Program, and also the above ground storage tank program for petroleum products. So we have a mandated inspection, so we need to go there every 3 years and do the inspections at those facilities. Of course, we write violations. We have an enforcement process as well. And we're also overseen by the state, obviously, so they evaluate us every 3 years to make sure those programs are being implemented correctly. So there is an inspection before a unified program permit is issued.
So the state inspections don't stop us from doing our own.
Well, I might also add that the fire code that we operate under is also, although it is amended at the local level, it is a state fire code at this point. So much of which we operate under is at the state level in terms of our oversight.
And I did speak with the city attorney's office on the letter and the question. There is some preemption, but there's additional research that needs to be done legally to see where avenues that we can inspect. So it's not 100% preempted, but we need to do some additional research to find where exactly we can inspect.
And how is your office structured in terms of funding? Do you have adequate funding to do this? Do we need to find other sources of funding?
This question.
We currently do not have the funding to do a citywide inspection program beyond what currently exists. And even in our existing program, we probably need additional resources. And that's why I asked for the fee study to evaluate what would be the true cost of implementing such a program so that we can make sure the permit fee is appropriately sized to provide the resources to do the work.
Do you have any other problems in hiring staff other than just the resources?
We are on a phased hiring plan right now. We were 30% funded last year, so even though we were allocated 6 positions, we were not able to hire all 6 positions. We did get 100% funding in this current fiscal year. However, we're going through the civil service process. Some of the lists have expired, and so we're waiting for lists to be recreated for 2 of the positions. So we're hoping later this year to have new lists that we can interview and hire from in this fiscal year.
And where are we on the 2,500-foot oil and gas setback issue?
Yeah, we have been diligently working on that in parallel with the other items that have been requested from the council. We still are not complete. We are doing an analysis that has never been done before and looking at multiple amendments that were made to the original motion. So I anticipate in the next few months we will be able to present a final report that will come to this committee.
And I guess the Catholic Archdiocese of LA has the current authority and ability to terminate the Allen-Co lease. Have they done that, or are they indicating that they would?
That's not part of this report. That's the next report. They have not, as far as I know, terminated the lease at Allen-Co. Their 1964 oil and gas operating agreement still is the agreement they're operating under today that does have a provision that they can terminate the lease if the facility shut down for more than a year due to government regulation. But I am not aware of the Archdiocese exercising that clause.
I was hoping that they would follow the Pope's encyclical for ecological justice, but perhaps not yet.
Is that it, Mr. Torres?
That's it.
Mr. Kokorian?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I had some of the same questions about preemption. It sounds like that's an open issue that still has to be resolved with the city attorney as to what the range of issues that would potentially be preempted would be and under what legal scenarios. So I'll be happy to leave that for another day after we have a more comprehensive analysis by the city attorney. The one question that kind of jumped out to me is that with the integration of all of the city departments who have a stake in this and creating an inspection regimen that's fee supported, the one part of the city family that I noted was missing was EMD. And I was just wondering if there's, would that be entirely redundant of the fire department's role, do you think, or wouldn't it be important for them as a coordinating agency of emergency response to have some role in considering emergency plans as well?
Sure. We have not consulted with EMD in this report. I think they should have a role. I know there were some amendment requests submitted by the fire department, just clarifying roles and responsibilities. I think everyone got a copy of those amendments, but I do think EMD should have a role in the community safety plans and emergency preparedness plans.
If I may add, Councilmember Krikorian, having worked extensively with EMD in the past, I know that they do bring a certain amount of subject matter expertise. And one of the things that we're struggling with in terms of the emergency plans as it relates to this particular report is the idea that we're comprehensive enough throughout all of the respective agencies and that they're all adequately represented. So having EMD involved could only enhance that opportunity.
Okay, very good. I don't necessarily advocate for that if you think that it would be redundant, but if just in their coordinating role, if nothing else, just to be able to bring together the cross-departmental expertise and coordination, it seems to me that at least in reviewing the emergency response plans.
Well, one of their roles and responsibilities is to look at the overarching emergency plan for the entire city, obviously, as you well know. So it would be most appropriate in my opinion.
Great, thank you. Well, perhaps when we, perhaps that can be included as another participant in the report.
This is for sure.
Thank you.
So one of the things I was pleased to see is you incorporated the CalEnviro Screen in the review of your drilling sites, and I hope you can continue to use this tool. Right? You're going to continue to use this tool in the future? Okay.
That's in the next report. So I did one, and then I have two more to go. Do you want to do together?
This is why I was. Yeah, I want you to. So I'm asking. I know that you didn't. Well, we brought them all together. I was hoping you would do the reports all together, but I guess you can just skip on to that, and you can speak a little bit about continuing to use the CalEnviro Screen. But I specifically wanted to ask, what does the Enviro Screen say about districts like Mr. Cedillo compared to areas like Aliso Canyon?
Yeah, so the California Enviro Screen is a scoring mechanism that represents a combined measure of pollution and potential vulnerability of a population that's affected by that pollution. So it's an analysis that shows disparities between, say, different communities' racial, age, makeup by census block. It was developed for the California Environmental Protection Agency, and it's a public record. So it ranges in percentages. So when I looked at, say, in the report on the terminated inactive oil districts in Council District 1, it ranges from 50 to 100%, which means the middle to the highest level of pollution. So, you might say the most vulnerable communities that are impacted by pollution exist in CD1, and in particularly next to the Allen Coast site, is in the 90 percentile. So there's a different ranking that's given district-wide. And I did look at
the chair's,
CD.
The second part of the chair's question was, how does that relate to Aliso Canyon?
You just said it.
So I did look at CD12. They are at the lower end of the range, so they go from the 1 percentile to about the 50 percentile. They did have a few census blocks that were in the 80th percentile, but most of them were between 1 and 50. So you might say they're on the opposite ends of the scoring range, from the least impacted to the most impacted. And this is statewide by all census blocks, and then at the relevant or relative pollution in that area. And it's the combined pollution effect. So it's not just the oil and gas sites, but it's the combined
the cumulative effect of everything else they have in that area, right?
Airport and so forth.
Yep.
So what conclusions then you make if you've got CD1 at the highest end, up to 100%, 90 to 100, and what vulnerability would you assess to that compared to Aliso Canyon, which was at the bottom end, and then you have the most costly, if not one of the most dangerous calamities, natural calamities?
So you have a community in need that's at the highest risk. It would be the most vulnerable community that would need additional support. I think when you talk about environmental justice, this was a community that would need the justice and additional resources to be able to assist in mitigating the risks and the impacts that they have from pollution.
The other question I had is your inspection program. I think that still needs more clarity and details. What exactly are we monitoring? And are we duplicating our efforts compared to other regulatory agencies? I know that we're going to continue to discuss this area, but do you have any thoughts to that? Are we duplicating our efforts anywhere else?
No, and this was a preliminary proposal. It did say that we needed a report back in more detail. We did look at what.
I know that today we're not taking action on this item. I know.
Right, but yeah, explicitly we called for not duplicating, making sure they're coordinating. We don't have a coordinated database in the city right now of all sites and all relevant oversight agencies, internal, let alone looking at Air Quality District, the Water Board, California Division of Oil and Gas. That information is public information, but it's not all in one clearinghouse that is immediately accessible. And we can get that data, but it's going to take weeks or months, depending on the site, where we could put it in one digital database that we all would have instantaneous, and it would be able to increase transparency of the public, but it should also be able to.
Yeah, I just think that this particular inspection program must be really thorough and defined, including feedback from our police department, so that we can get it right. Do you have anything to add?
You mean from fire?
On the inspection program?
I'm sorry, did you mean fire?
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I meant fire.
Well, I think in terms of, we're hamstrung by a few items that, plague every agency, one of which is lack of staffing.
Yeah.
So our inability we have one inspector dedicated for our oil.
One inspector for the entire?
For the entire program.
Oil drill?
Yes. So that creates that single point of failure issue that, frankly, is very troublesome for me on many different levels, from aspects of training and just the ability to go out there and get the job done. So that's one of my biggest hamstrung issues right now. But in terms of the actual comprehensive program itself, we could benefit from having a collaboration with the Oil and Gas Administration. I think that there is enough commonality where we can go in and look for the most egregious and necessary fire, life, and safety issues. And we have extensively discussed and provided that process to the Oil and Gas Administrator. In addition to that, we also do have our permit process. We do oversight with regard to the bonds, and then clearly we're going out there and doing the actual annual inspection.
Correct. Did you want to finish off the other two reports?
Yes.
Before you continue.
Awesome.
Go ahead.
On moving to the terminating inactive oil districts, this came last December, a report back only looking at Council District 1, identifying the urban oil districts and their associated ordinances, evaluating the urban oil districts and their associated ordinances only in Council 1, and then preparing a report on the necessary steps to identify and terminate inactive districts. This was an exhaustive process in Piper Tech, tracking down the ordinances and the different districts citywide. We had a lot of collaboration with the planning department. We identified 330 districts citywide. There's 13 in Council District 1, about 4% of the overall urban drilling districts. We had it fall in several categorical areas. One, the urban drilling districts that currently meet the existing municipal code that are eligible for termination. Two, we had districts that do not meet the current standard for municipal code for termination, which gives us a few options. We can do nothing about it. We can repeal the city charter, or repeal the ordinance through the city charter, section 558, that allows the city council to, if they created an ordinance for planning and zoning purpose, they can repeal those ordinances. And then third option, we can amend the municipal code to include, really it comes down to a criteria of buried wells. There's thousands of buried wells throughout the city that are from the late 1800s, early 1900s, that are under freeways and buildings and are not accessible to be re-abandoned. The specific language in the municipal code said it needs to be abandoned to the legal requirements. They do not meet the current definition of legally abandoned oil wells. And so, in the recommendations, we have one, to begin the process. You've already initiated the process in the municipal code by asking for this report, but it would follow through with the planning department and their zoning administration division, and then public works and the petroleum office, writing reports recommending the termination of the districts that meet the criteria. Second would be to ask the city attorney's office to prepare an ordinance terminating those districts that are listed in recommendation 2. Third is asking the city attorney to repeal the other district in the area U-140 that does not currently meet the municipal code definition for repeal, but the city council is allowed to repeal that. Fourth recommendation is to ask the city attorney's office to create an amendment to the ordinance so that buried wells can be considered for terminating an urban oil district. And then lastly, the issue of subsidence, which is a duty task to the petroleum administrator. There's not been a subsidence review at this site. There was concern raised by the Archdiocese that some of the wells had recently pressurized, even though they've not been active for more than 4 years, which may be an indication of compaction or surface pressure pushing the gas out of the field and into the well bores. And if that is the case and there is subsidence, it may lead to public and private property damage, that there are mitigative and corrective measures that can be taken. Inglewood oil field and overseen by the county, the Wilmington oil field overseen by the City of Long Beach, both have extensive subsidence monitoring and corrective action programs. We don't have such a program. And as far as I know, U-140 district, which is was the only active district in the in CD1, has not had a modern subsidence review done. And so it should be reviewed, and it would be a collaborative effort between my office and the Bureau of Engineering. And then the last motion that, or third item, that was a motion from Council President Weston and co-presented by Councilmember Koretz, Bon, and Cedillo Martinez, is about centralizing and modernizing the function of Petroleum Administration. We've had several meetings on this, but we have not prepared a report because this is the first reading of it. And so once this gets adopted by council, we'll come back to this committee with the recommendations and a report on what meeting what's been outlined here in this motion.
Okay. Members, are there any questions on reports 7 and 8? No? And then we're going to go ahead and move forward. So members, while I don't have active drilling in my district, I do have experience in landfills and waste facilities and how frustrating it can be when agencies work in silos, especially when you're trying to protect communities, and jurisdictions just often point the finger at each other and say it's not within my jurisdiction. So I think it's important that we do not wash our hands of our responsibility to residents, so we need to do our due diligence. I want to commend you, Uruak, for your availability not only to my staff, to the members of this committee, but stakeholders and interested parties. So job well done, and we look forward to additional reports in this committee. I do agree with Council President Wesson that we need to take a closer look at the recommendations that came out of the county study recommending real-time air monitoring, so I hope that we can discuss that at a later time. We should take a look at that study that was just released, and we owe it to the most vulnerable communities to get out there and monitor these sites ASAP so that we don't continue to wait on bureaucracy to drag its feet or run its course. So I'm going to go ahead and read recommendations on item number 6. Actually, they're very lengthy, so I'm going to have Mr. Prieto do it for me. But I'd like to approve recommendation 6 with a few amendments that the CLA will read into the record. They're pretty lengthy. Then after that, we'll take action on items 7 and 8. So why don't you go ahead and read the amendments that we prepared for item number 6.
Certainly, Madam Chair. Item number 6, recommendation 1, request the Office of the City Attorney prepare and present an ordinance creating an annual oil well and facilities compliance inspection program to be adopted by the Council and overseen by the Board of Public Works, and authorizing the coordination of local oversight and internal city departments and external related government agencies, including the establishment of a new permit type as described in the report. Number 2, instruct the CAO to identify funding sources and propose the appropriate funding to enable the Patrol Administrator to develop a centralized annual inspection program, including compliance standards and enforcement protocols for noncompliance, and to subsequently conduct a commensurate fee study establishing the fee amount of the proposed permit. Number 3, request the Patrol Administrator, in consultation with the Planning Department and Zoning Administrator, to report back on existing or potential ability to incorporate real-time air monitoring at new or modified oil and gas facilities prior to commencement of operations, or upon the annual reauthorization of existing operations in close proximity to sensitive uses. Number 4, request the Patrol Administrator to report back on a work plan and resources required to implement the proposed program once the study is completed and ordinance presented. Until the compliance inspection program is formalized, the Patrol Administrator is urgently requested to initiate the preliminary review of sites for general compliance using the CalEnviro Screen, cleanup greenup communities, and proximity to residential sensitive uses to determine the priority order of sites to be reviewed. That would complete the recommendations. There is a recommendation in the PA report relative to making technical changes. That recommendation is stricken at this time.
That is correct. So are there any objections to the recommendations and the amendments that were read by the CLA's office? Seeing none, I'm going to get to you right now, okay?
Are you asking if there were objections?
To 6?
Right.
Okay, I thought you were talking about, you wanted to jump into 7.
No.
No? 6, what do you want to add to 6?
Well, I think it's important. There's been a suggestion about a 2,500-foot setback, and I think that merits an evaluation and a study, its impact. I think the question of density is a critical question for any siting and any existing wells. There's been stated that there's a history here about the development of the city. You know, a city built on oil wells, and then we wonder why we have gas underground. We need to evaluate that in terms of where we're at today as to when these wells became active and where we're at today with respect to density and what makes sense. And so if we can go back and reevaluate this situation and see what's been the changed circumstance. This, for example, in my case, things may have made sense 50 years ago, 75 years ago, 100 years ago. Makes no sense today. And so that's one of the points that we should evaluate. The density, the 2,500-foot setback. And I think, and then in addition to that, as we evaluate and do these holistic approaches, that there should be some evaluation in terms of impact on the economy. There's no question that we are all concerned about the environment, but we're also concerned about jobs and neighborhoods and community, and economic impact is a factor in that, and so that we should begin to be able to analyze all these factors concurrently. Because I know that in some instances, people feel strongly about this, but then don't feel as strongly about it when it's proximity is a factor, or density is a factor, or jobs are a factor. Quality of life, what they consider their quality of life as a factor. And so we see that throughout the city, as we saw in the valley, where people are at 1%. In my district, we're at 100% in terms of impact. So
We'll add
those considerations.
We'll add those to the recommendations on item number 6.
Can I say one thing?
Sure.
Those items are included in a separate report that's coming, that's citywide in nature. So I know people made public comment about it today, but
well, you already did the work, then you're ahead of it.
Yeah, it's coming.
That's all. That's
Okay.
that's all that means. That you don't have to.
Like minds.
Yeah, like minds means you're ahead of the game. All right, Mr. Cedillo, the recommendations in report item number 7 are in response to your original motion and instructions. So I just want to commend you for your leadership that you're showing for your constituents. Would you like to do the honors of moving and approving recommendations in item number 7 so that we can proceed with the termination of various drilling districts in your council district? Would you like to read those? I believe you have adopt recommendations 1 through 4. Do you want to read them, Mr. Prieto? Okay.
With respect to number 7, recommendation number 1 through 4, instruct the Planning Department and Zone Administration Division, Board of Public Works to prepare and submit reports and terminations to start the termination process in accordance with the municipal code for the following urban oil districts: U16, U123, U128, U129, U130, U136, U137, U137A, and U153. Number 2, request the city attorney to prepare and present ordinances terminating the following inactive urban oil districts: U16, U123, U128, U129, U130, U136, U137, U137A, U153. These urban oil districts are inactive, have no current operation, no known oil wells, and have no planned future oil and gas development to meet the city's criteria. Number 3, request city attorney to prepare and present ordinance repealing urban oil districts U140 in accordance with the city charter, section 558. Request city attorney to prepare and present ordinance amending the municipal code to include a new section on the termination of urban oil districts with buried wells. Madam Chair, that would complete number 7.
Okay, that is all moved by Mr. Cedillo.
Let me note on that.
You want to add something?
Yes.
Okay.
I just want to note for the record that I appreciate the work that's gone into this, and item 3 is obviously of top importance for us, but I do want to also let other interested parties know that we are available to continue a dialogue with them so that we can get to a resolution of this in ways that may not that we seek a solution that all the parties can be satisfied with, that there may be ways for us to do that, and so we remain open and available to engage in conversations and discussions with all interested parties.
Okay. That was moved by Mr. Cedillo. There are no objections. Seeing none, that will be the order. Let's go ahead and move to adopt motion under item number 8. Are there any objections? Seeing none, those actions and amendments are approved. I move to adjourn our meeting. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you.
Historic meeting.